Hello and welcome. I am Lauren MJ, and this is the Cybersecurity Training and Information Show, where I will attempt to go through the news, help us both to be better educated about the world of cybersecurity, and we can move on from there. So, I hope you'll join me, and we'll see what we can get done. So, here are some articles we're going to cover. The first thing, though, we always do, let's just go. Okay, so here is my episode format that I have. Here's also my social media and schedule information. The first thing we do around here for every episode is we do some listener feedback. Then we go through some articles, some news articles that happened in the last week or so, and talk about them. And then also after that, we do a how-to instructional on a particular aspect of cybersecurity. We focus on a particular domain. Right now, we're talking, for the last 3 episodes, we've been talking about the security risk. Basically, governance and risk is what we're talking about. Security risks, part of the domain of security, cybersecurity. Following that is a website or tool of the week. And let's get started. The first thing is listener feedback. I had some listener feedback. It was actually on YouTube that it happened. I went through and looked at the information that came. It was the same person as last time, actually. His feedback was given before. And what is very interesting about it is, again, very good feedback. I guess I'm not famous enough to get haters yet, so maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. But Pasta Breaker, same person as last time, says that much improved audio. Yes, thank you very much. I'm still back on that old microphone. So that same microphone I used back on episode 2, I'm still using, and my face is right up against it. It is actually a bit annoying, which is the reason I don't like it exactly, and I'm still looking for other solutions. But it does have a nice, rich experience. So, Pasta Breaker says, you've really done a lot to make yourself more listenable. Wonderful. And I am a soft-spoken person, and I do now have a script in front of me. Now, I don't have a script for every single piece of what I'm doing for every episode, because I do like to speak extemporaneously for the most part, but I also do have an outline, and when I cover the news, I do have a script. So I keep the news portion quick for that reason. That's the reason I do it for that portion. But the other portions, I do like to just encourage talking. Now, hopefully, at some point, I'll have a live audience. So that live audience will be back and forth a lot about particular things. And so I want to be a little bit more extemporaneous in preparation for that type of activity going on. But in any case, we will continue with that. So thank you for the feedback, and I am hoping that I keep improving. Give myself an occasional reminder to speak up. Well, I hope that having the microphone in my face and actually having it touch it is a good reminder, because that's a little bit constant and it's annoying. So I'm going to try to say that that's my solution today, but in the future I'll probably have to implement something else, like maybe a little timer in the corner or something of that nature. You definitely can't know everything, and they talked about that being 16 years into their career, this Pasta Breaker. And so you can't know everything. We talked about that last time, and it certainly is the truth. You cannot know everything. The best you can do is to maybe specialize in something. So that I've seen help a lot of people. If nothing else, getting a deep understanding of at least one aspect is very helpful. And in the future, you could become an expert at that particular thing. especially if it's something you love. Maybe you love privacy issues, or maybe you have a passion for development. So you can focus in on whatever particular thing that you love and be able to become an expert in that. Maybe even write a book or write articles or make particular shows yourself about that exact item. They said a great second episode and that the Mac stuff wasn't very helpful. So I understand not everybody uses Mac stuff. And it was a stretch to be able to just throw something out there for Macs. But because you don't see them, they definitely don't overwhelm anyone's enterprise environment, but they're typically there. One or two people are going to have them, or unless it's just your policy to not have Macs, you're definitely going to see people that love their Macs. So you're going to be able to have to be able to deal with them at some point, hopefully. So we'll see how that goes, and hopefully it was useful to somebody. In any case, let's move on from listener feedback now to the cybersecurity news. So let's go. So the news articles I want to go in first is, speaking of Apple and Mac, is a story by Michael Simon from Macworld. It's iOS 16.1, which I just put on my phone this morning. Tina Bug, hey, how are you doing? Oh, wow, somebody that I know is checking me out. I appreciate it so much. I don't know how long you can stay, but hopefully you'll enjoy it. This is going to be this is actually my third episode of the show, so I just got started into the part where we're talking about the news, so hopefully it'll be of some use. I know we were talking about privacy issues. We were over in your channel, and we were talking about privacy issues, which are, getting to be more and more important for most people, right? So certainly personal in some cases. Right now we're talking about a 0-day flaw that happened in iPhone. So they are working on fixing that. I personally just updated my phone today, so it went pretty smoothly. There are lots of new features, but they fixed about 20 security flaws on Apple phones. So good for them, I suppose. So what it was called is an out-of-bounds write issue. So it could give an attacker access to the whole device rather than just the tiny sandbox where an app lives, because that's what happens when you run an app on your phone or on your tablet or whatever. It creates a little sandbox for that app to live in so that the app can only see what it needs to see. But this trick or this hack allowed that app to escape from that sandbox. So it's hopefully fixed. It definitely is fixed. They've put out 16.1. Like I said, I updated it to it today, so it was a fix for that. There is one update to it, and it was seen in the wild. According to sensorstechforum.com, this 0-day exploit was seen in the wild. Sometimes you don't see them in the wild. You just know that they exist and know that they're there. But in this particular case, it does exist and was seen in the wild. I'll get you that CVE number. The CVE number is what security researchers use to kind of keep track of things, and there you'll see it right there. So it's that's the important thing if you want to go look up more about it and see what they fixed and exactly all the details about it. Basically, update your phone. Make sure it says 16.1. Not sure about iPads yet. So iPads kind of follow their own distinct pattern of updates. So you'll see that also come in the iPad. Just know that it's coming. Let's move to our second story. I have about 8 stories to cover. So this is our second story. Now this was interesting to me because this is a very old piece of technology that is still being used. So this came from the hackernews.com. It wasn't by Facebook. That's funny. This is my tool here making a mistake. It's not by Facebook. It was by Ravie Lakshmanan. That's the person that wrote it. Yeah, 22-year-old software is what we're talking about here. SQLite is a database library that's very, very old, and it's built into a lot of tools and even apps on your phone. It's been around a long, long time. It's like a way of creating a tiny database just for some important details but doing it quickly and doing it just right in a file. That's the reason that it's called SQLite, is because it's not a full-blown database. It's just something you can create that's tiny, and a lot of apps use it. They do store just temporary things that are quick and easy. I'll give you one example of modern day use for it is Minecraft servers. Minecraft servers, they have plugins, and those plugins keep track of people. They may track money, or they may track, who owns what in the particular game you're playing. Maybe it's where people put their stuff, or where, protecting chests, or all the little tools that they have on their server. That information is kept in a database. And unless you specify a database to point it to, by default, it keeps it in a SQLite database. So here is a bug in this SQLite database that actually allows you to escape your database and to affect other things. So I imagine if you don't see it already, you're going to see a bunch of apps suddenly come out with updates in the next few days, because any app that uses the SQLite technology is going to want to update themselves right now. So you'll see that a lot. You'll also see things like Minecraft servers update themselves. Here's the CVE number in that, if you want to go look for more information. But yeah, it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. And it's one of those things you just don't see it because it's not the forefront. It's just a tiny little piece of people's code where they rely on this library that's already been written and has already been so well documented and used. But you have to update to version 3.39.2 now, if possible. Otherwise, protect yourself. Switch to a real database or do something else. Switch to a different type of storage method. So let's cover the next one, and that is the password pizza123. Apparently, according to this article on BleepingComputer, by someone called Specops. Now that is true. Specops is the one that wrote it, and I don't know who that is, but that's the handle they use. So this article, I couldn't help but put it in here because it's food related, and of course there are a huge amount of puns about pizza and food. So great. But the criminal hackers here took responsibility for a breach on a company called Fast Company, and they say they used the password pizza123 as their ticket in. Apparently, it opened up everything. If nothing else, this is a call to action to change your password and not to use words and easily guessed combinations of letters and numbers. So if you're curious about your password that you use on things, maybe you have like your favorite password, or maybe you take a password and then you kind of alter it for each website you go to. Some people do that too. There are tools out there that you can kind of look at to check your password to see if it's strong. There's one at a place called Specops or specopssoft.com. It has one that you can just type in your password and it will kind of just locally, it doesn't save it anywhere. It just locally is a tool that you just use on that website. And it looks at it and can help you with it. Where is it? Is it under resources? Well, I can't remember what it was. I should have put the exact link. But in here somewhere, they have a little thing on, little tool that you can use that shows you like how fancy your password is. There's another one at security.org. Maybe we can use that one. Hopefully that will be easier to access. And it does, it kind of just helps check your password. Let me see if I can find it here. That's the part that's embarrassing, is like, I know this is here and I used it and I played with it, but getting back to it, yeah, that's not so easy. Where is it? Sometimes they put things at the bottom, like a little password checker. Here it is, password strength checker. So let's look at this one and say, let's try that one. Pizza 1, 2, 3. So this tells you roughly how long it would take a computer to crack your password. So I just typed in pizza 1, 2, 3, just like the hackers used in that one, and it says it takes 1 minute to crack it. So there you go. Now you might just throw your password in here in the same tool. It's not saved anywhere. You don't submit. You don't save it. It's just kind of like a local thing that you can do. You can play with. So let's say you make up a password. There, 200 years to crack this password. So there are obviously differences, and it can help to understand if yours is a good way of doing things or not. Personally, I use a password keeper, so it kind of randomizes my passwords to every place I go. So I don't use the same password everywhere. Even 2 different places, I don't use the same password. But anyway, these things are kind of helpful, just personally, kind of know how you're doing. Next article. Okay. This is from Dan Goodin at Ars Technica. And this story is about the end of the password, right? Password killer. We've been talking about password killers for a long time. What's going to finally get rid of the password? Well, many think that it is this now. It's called a passkey. And it is some heavy hitters that are working together. For example, Microsoft, Apple, Google. If you can ever imagine them being in the same room and agreeing on something, they actually agree on this. So that's worth a look, right? So this is another article predicting the end of the password. However, this has some meat to it. This one proposes and espouses the alternative called Passkeys. Of course, they claim Microsoft, Apple, Google are all in on this, but it's basically ran by a place called the FIDO Alliance, F-I-D-O Alliance. Word is that PayPal will soon offer this option as well. So that means they're joining other places like Kayak, Best Buy, eBay, WordPress, maybe some of your other vendors, people that you use will get in on it. I'm not sure. Hey, thanks, Tina. Your audio only. Okay, so you're probably driving, huh? Driving or lurking? Oh, you said you're lurking at work. That's right. All right. So if I have anything on the pictures, I'll describe the picture. I know that's very helpful. Like when I'm listening to something, if I'm driving, if somebody will describe what they're talking about just for a second, then it helps me like have something in my head. I'll try to do that. Hold on while I cough. So much better. Hopefully you didn't hear that. Hopefully my little mute button is working. So big tech has tried to get rid of this. They've tried to get rid of passwords so long now. So you're probably familiar with Face ID, Microsoft Hello. That's basically where it looks at your face, and as you approach your computer, and it says, "Oh, I know you," and unlocks. You're also probably familiar with MFA or 2FA, depending on how you know where you are and how much you hear about it. But it basically is a separate app that generates random 6-digit numbers within a certain amount of time, and then you have to type that number in right after you log in, and then that allows you to go in. So it's sort of a secondary authentication system. So anyway, that's if you've ever used them, that's how they work. I end up using several because it depends on. It seems like certain vendors like certain ones, but in any case, so this Ars review editor Ron Amadio, he summed things up pretty well in this article, but he wrote Passkeys just trade web auth cryptographic keys with the website directly. There's no need for a human to tell a password manager to generate, store, or recall a secret. So that's how this works. It's a key, like something you actually have in your hand. Like it goes like as a fob on your keychain. And what it is you basically punch it, and it says as part of the authentication system, you're there, and you have one, and you just pressed it. So it's a way of saying, I am me, I know who I am, and here is my password. And it pushing that button sends the password, although there is no password. So if that makes any sense. If you want a demo, demos are really the best. The idea is you can just use the demo, kind of play with it. You need Safari or Chrome to play with it, but so take Safari or Chrome and go to passkeys.io. Personally, I'm not in Safari or Chrome right now, so it's not useful, but you could do it. I could get in it real quick. Give me 1 sec. Maybe we can try it. So here is lovely Safari, and we're going to try it live. Passkeys.io. What is a passkey? Oh, it's a new way to sign in. So here you go. Sign in, and it kind of helps you to understand what it is. Of course, you do need an app. So it's going to probably download it. Yeah, you need to sign up for it. And what it's going to do is probably hand it to you over the email that you give. So that's how that works. You can give it a try. Mileage may vary, I guess. But wouldn't that be nice to have no more passwords, right? And it seems like everyone and their dog is going to have a solution. But we'll see. We'll see if it holds any promise as time goes on. By the way, there is actually some recent news that happened while I was creating this episode. I don't know if you've heard about it, but basically the New York Post was just compromised today. So you may or may not have heard about it. I saw it on CNBC, so let's just go here. CNBC, the New York Post says employee posted racist, violent, and sexist headlines targeting politicians. Well, it's not. They were hacked, and they posted some pretty bad stuff. In any case, they're still working on it. Apparently, they got a hold of their Twitter feed, so they also have been tweeting things that are not so nice. So, anyway, just a little bit of current news as of the second. So, you may see that later in the news tonight if you watch your 5 o'clock news. There'll probably be something about that. Wow, hey, live, why not? We do this live. So let's go to the next one. The next one is about a Chrome extension. So there's a particular Chrome extension. Well, let's just go through this. It's by Bill Toulas, which we quote him a lot, from a place called BleepingComputer. And it's called Chrome Extensions with 1 million installs hijacks targets browsers. So I guess a word to the wise here, if you're an Android user, that just because a extension or a tool, a Chrome extension, has a bunch of downloads, that does not mean it's good for you. So if you look at that and say, oh, it's got 1 million downloads, it's probably safe. Apparently not. No, this one has 1 million downloads and is totally illegitimate. It hijacks your searches and inserts links into the websites that you visit. Takes advantage of Chrome there. Inserts ads to you that are not part of the website itself. It's trying to send you to the people that pay them. So that is the bad part of this. The campaign is called Dormant Colors. It always arrives as a color extension, color customization option. So if you have recently on your Android loaded a color extension or a color customization extension, pay attention. Make sure it is not this one. Because what it's doing is it's hijacking all your websites, putting in links to things that it wants you to go to in it. So that when you click on things or use your web browser, you're not going to where the website wants you to go. You're going to where this hack wants you to go. So be aware of this one. It shows how it works. It's got a nice little flow chart of how it takes advantage of you and how it's working. Because it's one of those that's just definitely really bad. You really don't want something like this having control of your devices. So bad. Let's move to the next one. This article, it's called Massive Crypto Mining Campaign Abuses the Free Tier Cloud Development Resources. This is also by the same guy, Bill Toulas, from BleepingComputer. Many cloud services and code services, they offer a free tier. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Like you go to AWS and you sign up for it. There is a free tier. Like you can get away with a small amount of use of this public resource that you normally pay for. But there is like a free tier. So if you do use it very little, or if you're doing like a free trial, you can get away with some things. In other words, if you just want to check something to see if it works. So you can get a small of computing resources to use for free. Their website's called, one is Heroku. GitHub does this. Also a place called, that I'd never heard of before, it's called buddy.works. Apparently that's a website, buddy.works. And they have like little things you can use, like a temporary virtual computer that you can own for just a bit. The bad actor performed roughly or over 1 million function calls daily using these service providers like GitHub. So it has like 300 accounts on GitHub, 2,000 accounts on Heroku, and 900 accounts. Get off there. 900 accounts on BuddyWorks. So these were like rotated and channeled through 130 different Docker images, all with mining code. So Bitcoin, think Bitcoin, although it's not Bitcoin, it's other types of coin. But these coins need to be mined. And so they're technically not stealing, right? Because they're using the free service, right? So they're taking over this free service and then using it, taking advantage of that free service to give this mining code something to do, some work, so that you can take advantage of these free services, these trial services, and be able to make money. So there you go. I guess we're going to probably see the end of the free tier, maybe, because people continue to take advantage like this, then they're just going to stop offering free stuff. So, who knows? You may be paying for more of your online services anyway these days. So let's keep moving. There's another one. This one is, I found really strange. It's an article from BleepingComputer, so the same place, but they basically took all of the ransomware articles that have popped in the last week, and they shoved them into one article. And I thought, how disturbing, because we used to cover these individually, but what they did was they have this thing. This is the first one that I've seen, so maybe they're going to do this every week. This week in ransomware, October 21st edition, Stop the Presses. So then they cover all of the ransomware articles that have been popping for this past week. So on the 16th, there was the Venus ransomware. On the 17th, there was the German newspaper hack. There was Australian insurance firm. There's all these places that are getting hit with all these cases that have happened. So now they're just kind of like shoving them into a weekly update. I guess it's getting so bad and it's getting so common, they're just doing that. They're just shoving it into like these occasional updates where they just do them all at once. We talked about this one in particular last week. So in the last episode, we talked about this VMware flaw that was taking advantage of people. And I guess someone finally created a ransomware out of it so that it now steals your information from you and encrypts it and then tries to sell it back to you. So there you go. Lovely, lovely people. Anyway, there was one article, one more article I want to talk about here. It's GitHub repositories. So a lot of people use GitHub repositories to post code, right? So you have some code you wrote and you put it on GitHub, and of course, unless you take steps to make it private, it makes it public, and so people can look at your code. And that's kind of what the purpose of GitHub is so that people can log in and they can like comment on your code or say, here's an update to it, or let me take your code and I'm going to copy it and I'm going to make a better version of it. Things like that. So these repositories are very, very useful. So what they're doing is they're taking advantage of people that are like cybersecurity researchers. So what they're doing is they're doing proof of concept work. They're saying, hey, this could happen, right? This particular hack, if you do it this way, it will work, and I can prove it. And so they do a proof of concept. Part of it is to write code, and then they put this code up on GitHub. So what they're doing now is they're taking it one step further and saying, we'll not only take your proof of concept, but we'll take your proof of concept and make an exploit out of it and publish malware. The bad guys publish malware that takes advantage of your code that you wrote. So here's a cybersecurity researcher trying to be helpful, right? To show that, yes, this does work, but then he ends up benefiting the bad guys, right? Because they now see that you wrote code to take advantage of this. They're just going to copy your code. So that's one of those things that we see a lot of that today. We see a lot of people that deliver these proof of concepts just to prove that they're right. But should we really be doing that? I mean, that's worth debating. That comes up as worth debating because of this. So that's why I picked this article to talk about. I thought that's an interesting development. Can we keep doing this? I don't know. But it's going to get dangerous, more and more dangerous as time goes on, as people use these proof of concepts to attack others. So here's a table. I know you can't see it, Tina, but it's a table of all the different proof of concepts that were written and how many people are taking advantage of it. I guess they just did a quick scan to see who's abusing it and who's using it, and they found all of these different people that have written all these proof of concepts and who is grabbing them and using them to, basically weaponizing them. So, man, it makes me definitely want to go through all my code and make it private. If I've ever written anything, I would just make it private. Unfortunately, that's what that encourages me to do. So, kind of sad that we just can't do research out in the open and talk with each other. We have to kind of make sure that no one can get it. I know, that's tough, but there it is. Okay, the last article I want to talk about is by CNN, put this up, and it's by Rebecca Cairns. We'll say Cairns. But it's about these rats that they're using now. And what they do is they train these rats. They put little backpacks on the rats. And they send the rats into disasters, like an earthquake. So like you've got a building that collapsed, they'll send the rats into the building. And what they have is this little backpack on them. And in the backpack, they have things in there, like cameras, right? So these little high-tech backpacks they're wearing, you can actually follow it and see where it's going. So rats are perfect for this because they're a strong sense of smell. So they locate these things in tight spaces. They can just run around and do this. Apparently they've simulated some disasters and it was extremely successful. So, wow. Good for them. I mean, well, what's in the backpack? Well, there's video cameras. There's two-way microphone. So that say someone's trapped, they've got their leg crushed or something under a beam. Well, they can now, this rat comes and they can talk to the rat, and also get talk to the rescuer, potential rescuer, or the crew outside that's attempting to rescue. You can have this two-way communication with them. Wow. I mean, wow. I mean, a long time now we've trained dogs, right? Trained dogs to help the disabled, or trained dogs to help in criminal situations, right? To be able to sniff out things, detect landmines, whatever. But wow, taking a rat and just have him go out and go into a building and find people. Wow, that's pretty amazing. What a I mean, I wouldn't say genius, but clever. That is just super clever. That is super clever. I love it. So they basically 3D printed these little plastic containers and video cameras and things, and they just put them in there, put them on these rats, and they just do their best. And they send them into these. Well, so far it's all fake, right? So far they're still testing. They haven't done it in an actual event yet, but I'm sure that we will have plenty of events for them to test, because that's just the way the world's going. But wow, that's nice. Good to see. So I don't know if I'm being rescued, if I'm, I got my leg stuck under something, and suddenly there's a rat in my face. How would I feel about that? But I guess if I saw a rat in my face and he's got a little backpack on with a banana in it or something, I mean, I might feel better about that. I don't know. Or if it's got a little camera and someone's talking and they're saying, "Hello, we're coming to get you. Just to let you know, you're gonna hear some equipment. The equipment's don't worry. We know where you are. Just talking to you, reassuring you that things are okay. I mean, that's invaluable. If you're in the middle of a disaster and you just can calm people down, that will improve their survivability by loads, like heaps. If they know that you're there, they know you're there, Anyway, hopefully you understand that. But wow, that is so cool. Anyway, that was my last article. I thought, ending on a positive note. It's kind of nice. So let's move to our next part. The next part of what I do is we do a how-to instructional thing. So what this is basically me explaining a certain particular aspect of cybersecurity and why it's important and what it is. And I don't spend a lot of time on this, but here goes. We're going to talk about, let's see, our first one was about ethics, and it was about do no harm, basically. It was, how a cybersecurity professional should act. And they would definitely want to keep in mind not doing any harm to the nation they work in, right? To a nation, to the public, to the general public. You're not going to do harm, right? So that's what we talked about first. Next, we talked about being a cybersecurity person would definitely be aware of the best case, best practices. They would be aware of things such as the principles of work, right? Being able to take a principle like least privilege and to be able to explain it and then put it into place for an environment. So you need to be able to know those things. It's called security concepts, is what it's called. So now we're going to look at regulatory issues and legal issues. So this is something that a person would definitely want to be aware of. I'm going to go ahead and put this on screen. This is just my notes. But so it's just notes. Don't worry about it. And what it is it's legal and regulatory issues are basically where cybersecurity kind of impacts the world, right? It's where it impacts your life because you're hitting a wall of possibly a policy that you've crossed or that you have to come into contact with. There are violations of those policies, and that's where it kind of gets into the legal realm, regulatory realm. Things like cybercrime, cyber terrorism, obvious violations of regulatory issues, violations of legal policies. The main objective of these attacks would be, of course, to cause harm. They do it for different reasons, like social reasons, ideology, religious, political. But this is a type of cybercrime that's committed against servers, computers, networks. Another crime is cyber stalking. So that's where you have a person, possibly an ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, that is stalking you online. They could also do things like steal your identity, maybe even empty your account, empty a bank account that's shared between the two of you. It could also turn into offline stalking. So dropping a Bluetooth tracker into your car, to track you, things of that nature. That is a crime. Oddly enough, that's a crime. Don't do it. So these are, legal regulatory issues. There are many types of victims. In other words, a victim is not necessarily just a person. It could be a famous person. It could be an individual, just a unknown individual, company, or a group of people. And they may decide to target them with something special, like a particular email campaign, something like that. Another impact on legal regulatory issues is information warfare. So these are things that you would see that are weaponized in our world, which is the denial of service attack, or a distributed denial of service attack, which is usually a personal attack on a resource. For example, a website. So say you don't like your bank, you're mad at them. So you purchase these bots, these botnets, and these botnets, what they do is they just do millions upon millions and upon millions of requests for the website, all at the same second. So of course it takes the website down, or it'll take it down for a while, or it will so overwhelm it that it can't respond to normal activity, right? So no one can get to it, no one can use it. I've had this happen to us in my work. They weren't able to take down everything. They just basically overwhelmed a couple of websites. We have hundreds of websites, but it just took a couple of websites and overwhelmed them is all. And it started a little bit of war back and forth on Twitter. So the person was doing things like trying to dox us, like taking our personal information and trying to put it out on Twitter, like trying to look up our personal addresses, which didn't work. The person ended up trying to post my address on Twitter, and what he did was he posted my work address. So at first it was just something I was doing for the day that was just a normal type of work event. But when they did that and they were trying to get nasty, I decided, okay, it's time to do it. Time to do this. So I went ahead and contacted Twitter and put in a complaint. And of course, they disappeared within a few minutes. But then they started up a new account, did the same thing. So I've had this happen. You'll often find that these denial of service attacks are actually against state law. And I know in my state, it's considered a felony. So they tie jail time to it. So this isn't, hey, we caught you and here's a fine. It's, hey, we caught you, you're going to spend some time in jail. So it's different. It's a different league, and many states are following suit. So it's not something that you just do for fun and, to try. It's something you would definitely want to not do. So what else could there be? There could be phishing attacks where specific emails are targeted to certain individuals. Like you can look up a company online, right? You can tell who the CEO is, who the COO is, and you can fake an email between the two and say, hey, could you send me such and such? And it looks like it's coming from one of the others to one of the others. So you can do that. It's illegal, so you're going to find yourself in trouble. There's also smishing. I don't like all the little names they come up with, stupid stuff like this, because if it's a phishing attack, it's a phishing attack. We don't need to give it a new name just because it's, instead of being over email, it's over SMS. So let's call it schmishing. Whatever. It's still phishing, but it's just over SMS. So it's over text. There's also people trying to take research or technology out of bounds. So in other words, they take it out of the country, and that can be illegal. It can be unlawful to export materials, and yes, it can be unlawful to export data. It is in fact illegal to export cryptographic data in the United States. Not too many people know that, but that's the reason you have like an international version of some app, and then you have the U.S. version of some app, because that app may employ some encryption tools as part of it. But that's the reason they want to make a U.S. version, and then they make an international version. It's because if they took the same thing that they developed in the United States and then made an international version out of it and copied it, it would be illegal because you can't do that. You can't take cryptographic technology that you've created in the United States and use it outside the United States. You can't do it. So, of course, there's all kinds of edge cases for that, and it's not across the board, but that's the idea. So you want to be careful when you do things like that. Hopefully, developers would be aware of stuff like that so they know what to do. In the academic space, we see a lot of this, and it's a special case for academia because what they'll do is they'll target a particular researcher. So maybe this researcher is a computer science researcher, and they're hacking the genome, right? So they've written a bunch of code to be able to break apart the DNA of viruses, right? So they're really good at it, and they've created all of this research. Well, what happens in May when this researcher loses all of their graduate assistants? They all graduate, and they move on to other jobs, and they have to pause their research. Well, they don't like pausing the research, so maybe they personally will take it up, and they will continue the research over the summer. But anymore, what's happening is that nation-state actors who do not correctly reveal their own source, who they are, they're not telling you exactly who they are, but they will approach this researcher and say, hey, we're with a company, XYZ, and we'd like to help you with your research. And what researcher would turn that down, right? So what they end up doing is they say, hey, we've duplicated all your tools that you use there on the campus. So what we want to do is just hire you for the summer and have you just come over and finish your research in our lab. And then you can take whatever you learn and take it right back with you. Wow, what a deal, right? And we'll even pay you for it. We'll pay you personally. And we'll set you up in a nice environment. We'll even give you graduate assistants. We'll give you as many as you want. And these people will speak English perfectly. And you don't know, you're none the wiser. You have no idea that all the research you're doing and all the effort that you're doing is going straight to China. That everybody around you is Chinese. That your graduate assistants are Chinese. They're agents of the Chinese government. And they have basically hired you to create this technology for them. So that research that you just did for the whole year, you're now giving to the Chinese. So, and what they're doing is they've got all the money in the world to be able to copy your environment, right? So whatever equipment you have, whatever tools you have at your university, they have a copy of it. And they'll even fly you someplace. It'll even be like Hawaii or some other place where they'll just invite you in and say, here you go. Here's your room. You can stay here as long as you need. So you have a whole summer where you work with these people and you're none the wiser that you've actually just handed all of your research over to the Iranians. It's happened. And it's a thing. And I've personally been visited by our legal counsel that says, please stop this. Please come up with technology to stop this. Please help us educate our researchers. They are doing this and don't see anything wrong with it. They don't know they've been had because they're PhDs, and nobody's smarter than me, right? How? What do you mean I'm had? I'm not had. In any case, so the export of unlawful materials, that includes research and data, that can be against the law. So here's another aspect of it is copyright. Copyright, patent infringement, trademarks, trade secrets. These need to have importing and exporting controls wrapped around them to make sure that your trade secrets aren't leaving your lab, or they're definitely not leaving the country. Things of that nature. So if you've got some specific research you've done or a specific product, then you want to guard it with your life. I mean, it's important. It's your bread and butter. So please, keep track of it. What else do you say? Please stop giving it out for free. I mean, what do you say? So anyway, and on the subject of copyright, let's do a little test. I know that I know Tina can't see this, but I'm going to put a picture on the screen. And this is I'm stealing this from some internal education we do in our place here. And what it is that I've got 4 pictures up on the screen. There are 2 on the left and 2 on the right. The 2 on the left pictures are, it's a couple, it's a man and a woman, and they have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little puppies in their arms. I think 7. 8 puppies? I guess there are 8 puppies. Anyway, so there's 8 puppies, and they're just sitting in front of a fence, and it's a black and white photo. And then right next to it is another picture that has been, it's sort of like it, but it's been heavily colorized, and the background's gone, and so they're sitting on a bench, but it's not them. It's not that couple. It's like some kind of cartoony looking, and the puppies are all blue for some reason. So I'll tell you that these pictures are similar, right? This was a copyright case that came up. And in other words, someone created this photograph, and then someone else later created this other picture and made money from it. And the original copyright owner filed a suit against them. So I will tell you the results in a minute. Let me go to the other set of pictures. So on the right, there are 2 more pictures. And these 2 pictures are, there's basically this guy that's in the wilderness, and he's wearing shorts, and he's tough looking. He's got really long dreadlocks, and he's, looks like in a wilderness type area, and he's just standing there. And then the picture that's next to it is a picture of exactly the same thing, only his face has been covered with blue dots, like blue marks, and over his groin area is a guitar. A picture of a guitar has been pasted, and it's a blue guitar. So this also is the same situation, where the person on the left made the original work of art, and then the person on the right, a different person, is made that piece of work, and the original author sued them. So these are both cases of copyright infringement that came before judges and said, I need justice here. Please help me. So which of these cases went what way? So this is what people don't understand about copyright, is how is that a copyright violation? So let's take the one on the right first. So the one on the right is basically this guy in the wilderness. It's a black and white picture of him. And the new work, the work that was made after that, is basically a blurry version of the same photograph, and then photoshopped into it are some blobs of paint over his face and a guitar over his hip area, right? So was that successfully litigated as a copyright violation? There's a question for you. Now let's look back on the left. So here's this black and white photo of this couple with all these cute little puppies, right? And then someone later came up with a work of art, and the work of art is a cartoony version of these people that does not look like them at all. I mean, you can tell it's cartoony. They took away the background, and all they have is a bench, and they have a bunch of blue dogs in front of them that are obviously fake, and they're colored blue. So the person who made the photograph sued for copyright violation. So which of these worked, right? Which of these ended up being a copyright violation, and which one was not? And I will tell you the answer. And you'll be surprised. Most people go to the left here and say, that left one, that's totally different. I mean, the people don't look the same. The puppies are not the same. One's on a bench, and I can't tell what the other one's sitting on. The background's different. Everything is different in these two pictures. But this one is the one that was successfully litigated as a copyright violation. And the original owner sought damages and was successful. The one on the right, which you would think naturally, oh, that's definitely a copyright violation, because a person just basically took the photograph, blurred it a little, threw some paint on the face, and then photoshopped in a guitar. I mean, they did very little work. And you'd look at that and say, oh, that's definitely a copyright violation. No. The judge ruled that it was a person expressing themselves differently, taking the original art and making a change to it. And it's enough change that it was considered a new piece of work. Oh, no. When you're looking at these two pictures, it's like that the one on the left definitely looked different, so you'd think that one would be the one that would lose the litigation, but no. They are the ones that won their litigation. The one on the right are the ones that lost. In any case, copyright's an interesting thing, right? So that's another, cross between cyber activity, cybersecurity, and legal regulatory issues. So let's do the website web tool of the week, which is our next thing we do. And that is, website tool of the week. You know what I did was I did not show that. I did not show that picture on the screen that whole time. That is irritating. Okay, I'm going to show it right now. So now you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, hate when I do that. In any case, let's go back to this one. So now we're going to talk about the website web tool of the week. So the one I want to talk about is, it's called, let me go to my notes here. It is called ipinfo.io. It's a website. ipinfo.io. And hit enter. And what it does is it shows you the IP address of where you are coming from right now. And it tells you all about the IP address, or what a public person or anyone on the internet would be able to learn about your IP address. So a little bit of a privacy type issue, but it's called ipinfo.io. I'll go ahead and type it in chat too, but there you go. So there's my website web tool of the week. So that's all for my show. We are done. We've covered website tool of the week, our last part. So I appreciate you coming. I appreciate you hanging around. I appreciate you lurking. We're going to go ahead and call it at this point. Thank you for the follows during this session. I've got a new follower, Real Biscus. Thank you very much for following. Appreciate that so much. Also, hello to Tina Bug, who came by and checked me out. I'm always in her stream, so she came to my stream. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it very much. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close down this stream, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day. Bye.